Okay, so a big welcome to the members of the RAS, of which I'm one of them, and also a big welcome to all the researchers present here. So good evening. So today we have a very renowned speaker, and who is so well known to everybody, and he is Professor Lee Chack-fan. And Professor Lee is the chief convener of the Academic Review Committee of the Hong Kong Chronicles. He presently serves as the director of Jiao Zhongyi Petit École, University of Hong Kong. And he is the president of the Zhuhai College of Higher Education, and the vice chairman of Hong Kong Palace Museum Limited, and chairman of the board, the Hong Kong Institute of Promotion of Chinese Culture. Professor Lee is also the chairman of the management committee Jiao Zhongyi Academy, and is the president of the Fu Hui charity organization. Charity Foundation. Sorry for my oversight. Professor Lee previously served as a member and the convener of the museum group of the Culture and Heritage Commission, and was the pro-vice chancellor and chair professor of the University of Hong Kong. I can go on and go on and go on to introduce Professor Lee because he has so many titles, but not to waste the time, I better invite Mr. Lee to come forward. Professor Lee, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Tinsley, members of the Royal Asiatic Society. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's a great pleasure and also an honor for me to be able to brief you tonight on the preparation of the Hong Kong Chronicles. We will start off with a short video, a 5-minute video which gives an overview of the Hong Kong Chronicles Project, to be followed by a small PowerPoint presentation. So let's take a look at that video first, okay?
Chinese local chronicles come from a long, unique cultural tradition. They capture the history and transformation of a place from the very beginning, with a comprehensive record on its environment, politics, economy, culture, society, population, and major events. Local chronicles provide a collective memory of the past and a better understanding of the origin of people, as well as the footprints and the way of life of their ancestors. Chinese local chronicles are extensive in their coverage of different subjects, with a time frame from ancient to modern times. They are regarded as the encyclopedia of a geographic location. They carry 3 major functions, namely preservation of history, reference to public policy, and promotion of education. Local chronicles serve to inspire the future by reflecting on the past. The Chinese name of Local Chronicles first appeared in a government document called the Rights of Zhao. The document came out during the Warring States period, more than 2,000 years ago. The recent history of Hong Kong last appeared in the Local Chronicles of Xin'an County. It was published in 1819 during the Qing dynasty. Since then, a cultural gap between the history of Hong Kong and Chinese local chronicles had existed for 200 years. The making of Hong Kong Chronicles is a work of significance and high value. Under the support of mainland institutions and the Hong Kong SAR government, our Hong Kong Foundation is proudly committed to the historic mission of making the first ever series of Chinese local chronicles in Hong Kong. The book series is initiated by our Hong Kong Foundation, supported by the government, shared by the community, and written by scholars. In August 2019, Hong Kong Chronicles Institute was formally established as a non-profit organisation by Our Hong Kong Foundation, under the guiding principles of historical accuracy and impartial writing. Since its inception, Hong Kong Chronicles Institute has come under enthusiastic support from the community. The Institute is governed by a council under the chairmanship of Mr. Tung Chi Hua, who is also Vice Chairman of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. The Executive Committee is chaired by Mr. Bernard Chan, convener of the Hong Kong Executive Council. A group of scholars, historians, business leaders, industry professionals and government representatives serve as members of 4 different committees, namely Academic Review, Development, Promotion and Audit. Since the project's commencement, scholars and experts have provided their personal insights and advice. Industry professionals have shared their valuable first-hand stories through oral history interviews. Government bureaus, media outlets and academic institutions have assisted in collecting historical information and photos. The editorial coverage of 7,000 years was determined following rounds of review and discussion by historians and scholars. The time frame begins with the New Stone Age 5000 BC and ends on July 1st, 2017. 10 content categories are included in the book series of 66 volumes, 300 units and 25 million words published in 42 books. Topics include the natural environment, economy, culture, society, politics and people of Hong Kong. The project is expected to take 8 years to complete. The Hong Kong Chronicles series is subject to rigorous editorial guidelines, such as factual reporting without interpretation or analysis. A 7-step process requires writers and editors to research, compose, edit, streamline, review, verify and affirm with the content of the book series. In total, more than 10 layers of internal and external review by duty editors, historians and scholars are in place to ensure accuracy before final approval is obtained from the Academic Review Committee. Prior to publication, content must undergo further copy editing and proofreading by a publishing house. The first title, Overview and Chronology, was launched in December 2020. A complete series of 66 volumes published in 42 books is expected by 2027. The making of Hong Kong Chronicles is an unprecedented undertaking. The book series will be a complete historical record preserved for Hong Kong and the mainland, and a treasure of eternal value for many generations to come.
Okay, as the video indicated, there is a long-standing tradition of preparing and publishing local chronicle for each county and each province in China that went back to the couple thousand years. So the effort is to provide an encyclopedic record of local history. It is not exactly like gazetteers. It is basically a very detailed record of local history covering the natural environment, the social condition, and the economy, the culture, and everything. Some of the previous publications of local chronicles are indicated in this particular slide, as you can see. So we're not talking about one book or one volume. We're talking about a large collection of books and volumes that cover all those aspects that I described earlier. So upon completion, you would have many, many volumes for each locality or each province. Ditto for Hong Kong upon completion of our Hong Kong Chronicle. Normally, the first volume would feature a general description of the city or province, along with a chronology of major events That would normally be volume 1, and in Hong Kong we also follow this particular historic trend. In terms of the merits of chronicles, the preparation and publication, first of all, a comprehensive documentation of local history, as I reported earlier, and it helped to provide guidance for local governance. What it means is you know the area well enough, the problems, for example, some of the natural hazard. In Hong Kong we have landslide as natural hazard. In California we have earthquake as the natural hazard. You know the situation, then you're in a better position to prepare for it and govern properly. Then there is also the merit of heritage and cultural education. We let our younger generation know what their ancestors did, what was the cultural heritage of the location in question, and all that. Last but not the least is it provides a comprehensive database for research. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. As I report, in China they have a long-standing tradition of producing chronicle. As a result, a country like China with many earthquakes, frequent earthquakes, then each and every county, each and every province will document clearly the earthquakes that occur at different times. So as a result, you get a very comprehensive database for all the earthquakes and their epicenter, their magnitude, and everything. And this would allow China to produce a more accurate or more reliable assessment of seismic risks. You know the seismic risk, you convert it into the probability of occurring, you can help your earthquake resistant design. So this is one example of how we can use local chronicle. And I mentioned that it helped you to conduct research. Let me give you another example. Anna was referring to Professor i, who lived 101 years. Then he was, of course, a very eminent sinologist. For all his researches, he was highly respected globally. Well, he wasn't just a sinology. He was also the Grandmaster of Chronicles writing and research. In his youthful days, he was assisting his father in preparing the local chronicle in the city of Shoujiao in eastern Guangdong. So in the 30s, he was one of the editors for the Guangdong Provincial Chronicle, and then since the 1940s, he served as the chief editor of Shoujiao Chronicle, a job that he sort of carried on for many decades. His way of doing chronicles, he wouldn't really be just copying from one book or one journal to another. He would conduct extensive original research on the regional archaeology, history, art, literature, ethnicity, meaning the origin of the people there, in support of his editorial work. So what I'm saying is you can conduct or produce original research findings. It isn't just a simple exercise of copying from one document or publication to another. And Professor Zhao produced actually many research publications based on his research, including archaeology, history, art, and literature, and everything. And he also used the chronicle for his research. Let me quote you another example. some of you, might have heard of a Buddhist sutra. That happened to be the only Buddhist sutra produced in China. The others were all produced in India. The only Buddhist sutra known to be produced in China is called the Platform Sutra. The Platform Sutra was produced something like 1500 years ago during the Tang Dynasty, and that was the most important sutra for the Zen Buddhist school in China, Chanzhong. Okay, the Grandmaster of Chanzhong Zen Buddhism was a monk of the Tang Dynasty called Huineng. Well, according to what people put down in the Platform Sutra, Huineng was an illiterate person. In other words, he couldn't read, he couldn't write. He sort of got enlightened simply by listening to people chanting other Buddhist sutra, and then he got enlightened. So that was what the Platform Sutra said. Well, Professor Zhao, because he was a master of chronicle writing, chronicle preparation, in the 80s, after he retired from the Chinese University of Hong Kong, he went to quite a few places here and there in China, including the birthplace of Huineng in Guangdong province, near Shaoxing. Okay, there he searched for all this local record, all this local chronicle. And then he dug up some information which reflect that this particular monk, Huineng, actually come from a fairly well-off family. Well-off enough to donate a large piece of land to the government to eventually build a big temple called Boyanji, a huge temple. Well, imagine you're in Hong Kong, you could donate a piece of land to the government. How poor could you be? So, so Professor Zhao came back with a couple of research papers documenting all his findings from his study of local chronology, and came up with a conclusion that Huineng, came from a very well-off family. He could not be illiterate. His parents were very well educated, and all these things based on local chronicle. So you could use local chronicle to conduct your original research in humanity, in earthquake study, and otherwise as well. All right, now, so we now have a job of producing the Hong Kong Chronicle. As the video indicated, it is a very comprehensive project involving 60 volumes. And as the video also report, we had an organization set up under the Our Hong Kong Foundation to complete this work with Mr. C.H. Tong as the chairman of the board, and Bernard Chen being the executive committee chairman. We had 4 standing committee or working committee. One is academic review, basically looking after the editorial work for the project. Development committee, that's another name for fundraising. Promotion, meaning publicizing the chronicles, basically for public education. Audit, of course, everybody knows, to make sure that the money is well spent. The production plan is to produce 66 volumes, each about maybe 1 inch to 2 inch thick. Altogether, we expect to have some 25 million words. Now, how do you produce, the 66 volume? The current plan is to build up an editorial team that would prepare some 37 volumes out of the 66. So we would have an editorial team of young scholars, principally, to complete this 37 volume. What happened to the remaining 29? The remaining 29 volume, we expect this will be completed by scholars, professors, researchers in different universities and in the community under contractual arrangement. In other words, we sort of farm out to scholars. Why do we do that? Well, imagine you have to write a volume or part of a volume on the geology of Hong Kong. Do you really want to hire a geologist full-time for 8 years just to do that? You don't need to do that. That's not cost-effective. You may as well farm it out to a prominent geology, a well-known geologist who can complete that part for you. That would be more cost-effective. So as a result, some of the volume will be produced by the editorial team. Others will be produced by scholars in different universities because of their uniqueness. Well, what are the contents of this 66 volume? Well, as I mentioned, start off with chronology, and then we have portions on the nature, like the population, natural environment, that include geology, geography, and all the natural resources, environmental protection. Then, of course, economy is also a very important component of the whole chronology project. Everything from trade to manufacturing to commerce, tourism, banking, and all the logistics and all this. So that will be quite a few volumes by itself. Culture is another very important part of the chronologies, including art, literature, architecture, film, motion picture, performing art, visual art, paintings, design, and creative media and everything. Culture is not one volume, many volumes. So they cover all these different. Then the social condition of Hong Kong, including food, sport, leisure, education, social welfare, philanthropy. We have jockey club and things like that. So those should be all part and parcel of chronology. By the way, we have Chinese overseas and settlement. We try to cover what people in Hong Kong did, mostly in Hong Kong, but if they earn a Nobel Prize somewhere in the world, you better also mention it in the Chronicle. Politics, of course, no need to elaborate much on that. It's very much in the news and in the newspaper each and every day. So that will be also an important part of the chronology. People profile. We would also have a number of special monographs on selected topics, special topics. For example, we are producing one special monograph on Hong Kong's participation in China's reform and opening up over the past 4 decades. So that is being completed. I guess it will be completed as volume 2 towards the later part of this particular year. We also intend to produce a special monograph on, the kind of philanthropic organization such as the Hong Kong Jockey Club. It's very unique in Hong Kong. Then we also have structural topics as we move along. Well, let me report a bit on the editorial work or the academic review committee. We have managed to round up 28 scholars from various universities. Members of the RAS, they have a lot of experience, a lot of expertise in cultural and historic topics. Given the size of the project, the magnitude of the project, if you ask one university to undertake that project, it wouldn't work, because no university would have all the expertise required. So we need to put together the scholars from all the local universities, both UGC funded university as well as some self-financed institution. So we set up a committee for academic review to ensure that the 66 volume would meet the academic standard, the scholarly standards that we expect from this chronicle. Now, who are these 28 scholars? I think members of RAS know most of them, if not all. For example, there is Joseph Ting. He, I understand he's an on fellow of RAS, so no stranger to you folks. I need not to introduce him at all. He was, of course, very well known for setting up the Hong Kong Story exhibition at the History Museum of Hong Kong. He currently teaches at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. He is a most eminent scholar in Hong Kong history. Then another acquaintance of RAS, Elizabeth Sin, my colleagues at Hong Kong U for many decades. She served as a VP of RAS. I believe she's still a member of your International Editorial Advisory Committee. Correct me if I am wrong. Well, all these people have many books, many publications related to the history of Hong Kong, one aspect or the other. Then, as I mentioned, we sort of cover basically all the universities, all the historians, or those who have something to do with one aspect or another of Hong Kong history. Chinese University, we have Professor Liang Yuansheng. He used to be the Dean of Arts at Chinese University. He himself is a historian and specializing in public health history. So, you see, Professor Leung would not be just advising us on public health history. Being the former dean, if we need somebody like David Fo or another scholar at Chinese U, then he would help us to locate the kind of expertise at Chinese U in order to help us complete the chronicles. Most of you probably have heard of C.P. Lau of Lingnan University. He has, numerous books on, local history. Here are some of them. I believe there are many more that I haven't included here. So he is very well known for his work on local history. Another one is Professor Xiu of Zhuhai College. He also have, I believe, something like a dozen books on local history. So we have people like this to help in the production of the chronicle. Not just pure historian type of expertise needed. We need different aspects as well. For example, we need to cover the archaeology of Hong Kong. So for that purpose, we managed to have Professor Teng Chong, used to be with Chinese University of Hong Kong, very well known for his archaeological digging work and all that. So he would be a guiding force for us when it comes to the archaeological part. Well, I mentioned social history being also very important in chronology writing. We have people like Professor Wang Xiulen and Dr. Victor Zhang of the Chinese U. Professor Wang was my former colleague at Hong Kong U for a number of decades, and they specialize on economic history social history. So we have the expertise and guidance for that part as well. I mentioned that the chronology starts from some 7,000 years ago, the geologic past. So we need the geologic input. For that part, we have Chen Longsheng, a field geologist, used to be with the Department of Earth Science, meaning geology, at Hong Kong U. He is very well known for conducting geologic site tours, site visits, taking his students to different parts of Hong Kong to look at the rock formation, igneous, sedimentary, metamorphic, and whatnot. So he will be looking after the geology part and some of the natural history part of the chronology. Well, you cannot rely just on old folks like me or those people I mentioned earlier. You got to have young and upcoming brilliant scholars to handle much of the writing. So for that purpose, we are very grateful that we have been able to assemble some 40 young scholars, who graduate from different universities in Hong Kong and vicinity in recent years. They would be doing much of the actual writing. So here we have some of them. They were, in the picture because they were together with Joseph Ting on one occasion. So in other words, we now have a sort of a combination of an editorial team with some old folks, some brilliant young scholars who could handle much of the writing task for the chronologies. So basically, young plus more experienced type of thing. You can also call this a bit of a mentor and mentee type of setup. People like Joseph Ting will be the mentor, and the young scholar will be his mentees. He sort of guide them in the writing, make sure that we have a sufficient high standard of quality assurance in whatever we produce. As the video indicates, the Institute or the Chronology Institute was established in August 2019. Last December, we managed to produce the first volume, which featured the major events and also a general description of Hong Kong. So this reflects the completion of that particular volume. Well, it's a bit of a celebration, but you can tell we have a long way to go. We have a lot of more work to be done. Another 65 volumes to be produced. So we need your blessing, we need your support, we need your help in the years ahead. The video mentioned it will be an 8-year project. Well, to give you some idea of how this chronology works, for example, you refer to this Volume 1, Chronology of Major Event. We have produced a Chinese edition. Elizabeth Sin and Veronica Pearson, also of Hong Kong U, they are heading up a task force to produce an English edition. So before long, there will be an English edition. For the Chinese edition, there is already an electronic version of that particular volume already. So much so that if you search for for information, you could use the electronic version as well. For example, when it comes to RAS, if you put RAS into the search machine for the English, for the first volume, you could find now you'll be able to find 2 pieces of references to RAS, the formation, and then its rejuvenation and all that, and then the rejuvenation came along with a major speech by Professor Chack at Look Yeo Hall at Hong Kong U and all that. They were all mentioned in this volume 1. You can double check and for yourself. So the rejuvenation of RAS in the year 1959 December with an inaugural meeting at Look Yeo Hall with Professor Chack giving a speech on the study of Asia and heritage and task mentioned in the chronology volume 1 as well. You have information like that. I believe that more or less, is what I intend to report, and hopefully there will be other opportunity in the years ahead to update members of RAS on the chronology project. Thank you kindly for your patience. Thanks also for bearing with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Very interesting talk. Now we're open the floor to questions. So if anyone has any questions, please either write them in the chat or you can unmute yourself to directly ask them.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a question from Oliver who asks, is there any plan to produce film or video footage for some interesting subjects in the future?
I believe so, because we do have quite a team of video experts. I think some of these historic record will be well kept and will be shared, in due course. I believe so. Yes, both in written form as well as in video form. Yeah. I guess in due course, probably some of these will be also available in social media as well.
Yes, further questions?
It's John.
Yes, Owen?
Thank you so much for that interesting talk. Having lived in Hong Kong 15 years and traveling back to England, it would be lovely to have a chronicle of Hong Kong right from the start. I was involved in the legal side of it all, and I'm just wondering how soon the legal and political chronicle volume might be produced. Because at my senior age, I might not be able to retire in production month. So the legal and political volume, when might that
I have to go back to my production target.
We are sharing this.
I have a table, but
2015 or 2016. So that would be
2025 or 2015?
2025.
2025 to 2026.
Professor Lee, actually, we have started, preparing the.
Chief editors expect this will be produced in the year 2025. 2025. Four years from now.
You have a hand behind you. Yes.
So John, you better stay alive until then.
Wait, let's.
This is Helen. Hi. John was involved in drafting the basic law, so he has a very love of Hong Kong and a great interest in how Hong Kong develops.
Yes, John. Yes.
Yes, you have a question?
Can you hear? Yes.
Hello.
To your memory, Professor, the chronicles as they exist at the moment, do they already include quite a lot about the history of the Kowloon to Canton Railway, to your memory? Or is that subject not been covered very well up to now?
I believe it will be a very crucial part of the transportation the portion of the Chronicles, the railway part for sure. It will be a feature portion of that transportation part, either in the transportation part or in the infrastructure part.
And I think Elizabeth Sin, Dr. Elizabeth Sin will be writing on this also, on the railway, or is a collective work.
So Elizabeth's expertise will be put to good use, I'm sure.
Yeah, okay. Yes. Thank you.
And then we also have, the government transport department. They probably have a lot of data. By the way, I should report that each and every government department has somebody responsible in providing the kind of historical record and data required to write it. But when it comes to the railway part, and I believe both the transport department and the highway department, believe it or not, the highway department has a section that include railway transport. So they would provide a kind of historic record to ensure that it will be adequately covered in the Chronicles.
So that means you have.
Thank you.
Yeah, that means you have a specific contact person in the transport department and the highway department. Yes.
Right.
Oh, that would be good. Yes, that's great. Yes.
Mr. C.K. Mack, who was
Mak Chai Kwong,
yes. I believe he was the permanent secretary for public work.
Yes.
He used to look after the railway section of the highway department. So I think he would be a very resourceful, a good resource person for that.
Are there any other questions? If anyone, feel free to unmute yourself or to write in the chat. Sure.
Helen? Okay, this is Helen. On behalf of the RAS, we will, as a token of our thanks for you, we will send you a copy of our journal, our most recent journal. Every year, the RAS produces a journal which is full of sometimes not academics, but gifted historians writing on their own subject. So this is Volume 60, and this is OSR, Jubilee Volume. I think you go in a parallel way. The colonial history is very well documented.
Oh, great.
But also the people who have a great love of Hong Kong. So often there is a lot of deep digging down into local history before they submit articles for this journal. So I would, on behalf of RAS, if we can be of use for your researchers, please reach out and ask them. I admit that most of our documentation is in English, not Chinese. But there are some very good historians, as you know. You already mentioned Elizabeth Sin and Elizabeth within the RAS community. Who would be delighted to help you with your project.
Thank you most kindly, Dr. Tinsley. Thank you most kindly. We have been, looking through all your journals, all this historic record. So we definitely will follow up on the publication, the book you mentioned. Your previous research documentation would really be extremely helpful in the preparation of the Chronicles. Thank you very kindly.
Yeah. Helen?
The other thing I should mention as a bit of a plug for RAS is we do, as part of a RISE Fund trustee, the RAS has produced, with Hong Kong U mainly, Hong Kong U Publishing, but now recently City U and also Chinese U, about more than 30 books digging down into various aspects of Hong Kong history. These are all English language books, but they are in the main very well researched. So again, these books you're very welcome to use them as a research source, because they will not have a cheap publication without some rigorous editorial review.
Sure, they surely will be of great help. Thank you. Thanks.
Helen, it's me. Yes. Will you just add Hong Kong Chronicles to the mailing list?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, just add Luan, just add Hong Kong Chronicle. Yeah.
Because we have, visits to historic sites, at least 2 talks every month. And in better times, we also have done trips to mainland, where many of our people are have a deep knowledge of some of the aspects of mainland Chinese history. So what we would like to do is bring together some of these knowledge bases to help the Chronicles in its future development.
Yes.
Your researchers are very happy to, we would be very happy to contact and discuss with your researchers.
Yes. Yes,
that's great.
Add it to our RAS
Sure.
Mailing list. Yes. I think there is another, somebody wants to raise the question. Yes, John, Yes, John, please.
Yes, on that point, I have a rather large archive about Hong Kong music for the last 30 years, serious music, the Philharmonic, the operas, and the radio and so on. Is there some way in which people like me can contribute our archive material, which we long to dispose of usefully? Is there some contact that we can make to help contribute to the Chronicle? It will be wonderful, sure.
Very good.
Certainly. He's asking. Yes, certainly on behalf of Professor Lee, yes. I answered the question to you. Yes, John, please. Yes, you are more than welcome. Can you hear me, John? Yes, you are more than welcome. Yes, you are more than welcome.
Thank you.
Please do. Yes.
You're most welcome.
You need a contact point, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
John, we will follow up with a contact point for you, okay?
Yes.
So that you have a direct contact with the relevant research office in the Hong Kong Chronicles.
Thanks most kindly. We would count on your help, both all the previous publication in the journal, RAS journal, as well as what you mentioned. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
There's already on the chat line, there's a link to the Hong Kong Chronicles website. It's on that chat line.
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's directly up there, but certainly we'll follow up. And if anyone is interested in trying to contribute as well, please let me know or email RASHK, and then we'll figure out if with Hong Kong Chronicles if there's anything they need.
Yes.
Are there any other questions or anything following up? I don't think so, not directly. Is there anything over there, Anna, that needs to be?
Our members here in the audience, 你哋想唔想有嘢發問呢？ Maybe you would like to share with RAS 嗰邊呢？頭先係咪有人舉手啊？
佢哋一陣間用中文問。
Okay. Yes.
中文就聽就得㗎啦。
Helen, I think this is the only. These are only the Chinese words that you know.
Well, look forward to another, occasion report back to RAS. Maybe next time we'll get Elizabeth or Josephine to report to you on it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that will be lovely.
So my background is healthcare.
Yeah.
So I worked in healthcare for many years in Hong Kong.
Yes.
So of course I have a great interest in how healthcare is supported, the history of healthcare, which is actually very dynamic.
Yes.
Very dynamic. I'm very proud to be part of
Understand.
healthcare development in Hong Kong, which should be one of the best in the world now.
Yeah.
So these are close to people's hearts. So if you need to reach out, please do.
Yes, because a bit of Dr. Tinsley, Helen Tinsley background. She is the current chairman of RAS. She is a doctor, a medical doctor, and has been the superintendent of Our Lady of 黃大仙嗰間聖母醫院嘅，另外聖母醫院 Marino 嗰間喺黃大仙嗰度嗰間。So she has been a medical superintendent there for many years. Now retired, and so she devotes some of her time to RAS.
Very nice. Great.
Yeah. Okay, so with no more questions, then Luan, can I just ask Helen to thank Professor Lee for the evening, and also to keep up our contacts and the communications and add Hong Kong Chronicles to your mailing list. Okay, so thank you, Helen. Just a few words from you.
Yes. Right, thank you. This is very interesting for us, Professor. Thank you very much for taking time and also bringing your researchers to this talk. So as I say, when we get the contact details, we will send you a copy of our journal for your, just more documentation for you to look at. But we are very grateful to you for your time and your researches. We hope that the communication will be continued, and that if there are any special topics that you would like to dig into RAS expertise, we would be more than happy to help with this endeavor. It's a very big magnum opus for the next 8 years to achieve this, so we would like it to be successful. Yeah.
Thank you, Helen.
Thank you most kindly for the invitation. We'll look forward to your guidance in the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, yes.
Right.